Okay, if
Certainly not married.
everybody's ready, we'll get started with March 16th, 17 Airport Commission. Roll call.
Neil Johnson,
Here.
Greg Collier,
Here.
Andrew Barker,
Here.
Joel Gardner,
Here.
Steve Smith, Bill Schoonover,
Here.
Greg Willoughby.
Here.
And we have four sets of minutes for approval. You need some time, or do we hear a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve them.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I thought you may want to read them before.
Already did.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll second.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Comments from the audience? Anyone like to make a brief statement? If nobody, will turn it over to James.
All right, for our hangar renters, we've got still the same violators. I spoke with a couple of them. Scott's supposed to be current in the next 30 days. Bill Duhane said he's going to come in today. Mr. Howard doesn't answer my calls, so that's still in Sarah's city attorney's office. So they sent an email to her today to ask where they were on that. As far as all of our enclosed hangars are rented, and we rented another open T hangar this week for starting the 1st of next month. And he's on our waiting list to get an enclosed hangar once we have any available. So we're looking good on our hangars. We had a storm a couple weeks back that took 2 doors off the new hangar. And what we found out that there was improperly installed. So the center door was not pinned. So it didn't take any wind load whatsoever to take it completely off the track and drop it on a couple of Summit's aircraft. So lo and behold, during this time, we had calling for storms throughout the next 2 weeks. So we was in the process trying to get them fixed. But until that time, I went ahead and tied ropes across doorstop to doorstop to keep that bottom door from blowing out on the middle. And Todd, the company that installed them, come back and found out that they were improperly installed. So they have since come in, double pinned the middle door, put nylon rollers on the outside door. So now they're done properly, and the adjuster at the top of the door stops them from coming up and off the track also. So he's in the process of getting a wind load certificate for 90 mile-an-hour winds. He was going to send it to me today, but the company sent it to Gravette Airport instead of Springdale Airport. So that's where we are on that hangar.
What about the damage? Have you spoken with him about the damage that was incurred?
Yeah, from what I understand, his insurance is supposed to be working on that. Because from what I understand, they're taking full bill. Because apparently their computer crashed and they don't have the paperwork showing how they were told to install it compared to how it was installed. But the manufacturer said, here's how it should be installed, and this will guarantee that you'll have a wind load on it.
How many has gone over there and looked at the new installation or the
I
fix? Okay.
It looks
Anyway.
pretty good. I mean, I was surprised that there were no pins in it to begin with. And the rollers, even though the shaft doesn't look very big, I don't know how deep they went into the concrete with those, but it certainly is better than what was there.
One of the things that I noted, I was still fearful even of the pins of that, the bottom rollers coming off the track. We're sitting there on an angle orange, which all of them are installed that way, but it appeared to me like a large wind load. If you was to bend the pins or something happened there, it could still ride up on them, and the bottom could still come out. Well, there is a solution for that was originally engineered into it, and they didn't catch it. But there's pins at the top track, in the top track that's adjustable for this purpose. They run, yeah, and they just failed to adjust them up there, so that allowed that door to come up.
Right.
And when that bottom came out, then there was nothing holding for that top to just fall back through that gap up there.
Right.
And here you go.
So have they addressed that part as well?
Did, they
Okay, so they
caught
did
that,
address
that,
top as well. Okay.
and those adjustments apparently was overlooked by the original installers. It's a minor thing that's a big part of the function of that door, or the safety of that door, of it not blowing out. It just stops it from allowing it to come up. And that, to me, the pins are necessary, but that's the one thing that
Got to have both.
I think it could have, I think you could, because the pins are, the anchor of those, you have about a 4-inch gap, you know, you still be in pins, in my opinion. And, but it seems to me that that was the key to it. And then we're gonna get the engineer wind load.
If I could, I know on the.
Yeah, you're on the agenda, yeah.
Just tie into the discussion.
Sure.
While
Well,
they,
we'll just let you have your time now, if that's okay.
I think I only have 6 there, I apologize if y'all share a little bit, but. Yeah,
Share with
I
me,
agree
so
with
fine.
James'
Pass
summary.
The rest we'll share here.
So if I could, what I've tried to do here is summarize for the city the occurrences, the impact, kind of the same facts that James had. About 25-mile-an-hour wind was all that was documented by the tower. The clarification I make is one of the two, the 172, the door came off the bottom and blew in. The other came off the top and blew over on the top of the airplane. So the top, as Neil points out, is just as much or more equally important in this example. We don't know if it came off the track and then came off the top, or just came off the top and wasn't adjusted right. There is one picture, the very last picture shows the very minor bending of the track up high. On the 152, where the door came off the top part of the door, the pin just barely bent the upper track and it came out on top of the airplane. The doors are easy to slide back and forth. They're very light. They're aluminum. So, as Neil points out, most hangar doors that are of this type are on rollers, but they also weigh about 5 times more weight to keep them on the track. Our damage on the airplanes, the 172, that's the door that came in from the bottom into the plane. The spinner actually punctured and went through the door, and it pushed the plane back into the I-beams. Both flaps, that one actually has been replaced. We got it flying a few days ago. The front spinner, backing plate. The 152 had damage. You can see in the pictures, the door came off the top and on top of the airplane. So we had damage to the leading edge of the wing, which paint and prep on the paint, we don't have to change the skin itself. You can see where the door is laying on the cowl itself and the prop, or the prop spinner. So both the upper cowl half, it's fiberglass, that's being repaired now and repainted. The spinner, where it's on top of the backing plate and the spinner. And then on this one, we had 2 ailerons and a flap, where on the 172, we had 2 flaps. So yeah, we tried to flex to provide some level of service here. Brought one of the G1000 172s away from Bentonville over here to keep people flying. Like I said, we just got the 172 flying a couple of days ago. We're optimistic that Jonathan's group down in Mena will finish the paint and get the part to us tomorrow to get the 2 flaps. We've got the other aileron, or the 1 flap. We've got the other ailerons back to us tomorrow, and by the end of the day tomorrow, we may have the 152 up. So, and then I summarized the same thing that James said in terms of immediate causes. What wind loads was it designed for? We had heard that it needs to be in the 90-mile-an-hour range. James confirming that. The incorrect installation. I thought the discussion I had a week ago is that the inner doors really ought to be on the outer track, and the outer door is on the inner track.
Unless they pinned them, and they pinned that middle door. If they moved those 2 outer, or 2 doors in, it would put a bigger gap between the wall and the door and let more wind in,
How do I pin all 3 doors and get out?
because this right door moves, not the middle door.
Okay. Okay. You know, and so equally, I agree with Neil's comment about the top, because one of these probably had nothing to do with the bottom. And when we walked around after you put the ropes on, there were 2 more doors that were off the tracks. So being as light as they are, they just easily lift, and the roller's only about that high. So you lose that extra inch when it drops down, and you're right, the top is real important. Let's see. So that's kind of the summary. I did not realize that the builder, installer, provider is accepting. I've not had any conversation with him. He's not reached out to me. So if we could talk and I can understand how to get hold of him and start to pass these costs on to them.
I think
My
Suzanne
assumption
has
was.
his number.
Pardon me?
I think he gave Suzanne his number.
Okay, her grandmother passed away. She'll be back next Monday, so if you can help me with a contact, we'll do that. Yeah, my intention was to, today to bring those costs and explanation, assuming the city has to go after their contractor. So I appreciate y'all's help in trying to work with whoever he is, trying to resolve that. We'll be through by Monday or Tuesday of all the costs, know what we have in it, but the two estimates are pretty close.
The day after it happened, or as soon as we were notified, we notified Todd, he notified his insurance company, so
Okay.
they're fully aware of it. And they were given the opportunity to come take pictures or whatever. And so it's all been handled in that
Excellent.
respect from day one. And Todd, he just has not shirked on, he's the one that
That's-
came and
that's
told us
great.
it was an installation issue, not a design flaw.
Yeah.
And that's big of him, I think. And so he will instruct his insurance to pay it. So, but as soon as you can get those numbers, we can.
Mid next week, I'll have it all
We can help you
finished.
get it to his company. You also need to notify your insurance company with those numbers also, because they want to know in case they have to subrogate or something like that.
Well, right now, I'm paying for it.
I understand.
I've notified my insurance company, they're aware of it. And I'm
Right.
trying not to begin a claim with them
Right,
if
no.
the other party's taking care of it.
But
That
what I'm
saves it
getting
from my
at, they can
experience.
help you fight that battle if
Oh, they
it
will.
comes down.
I know.
That's the way I've
Yeah.
experienced in the past, and, yes.
Yeah, so right now it's on my shoulder, and if you can get me the contact information, I'll work with that. And by the end of next week, I will have communicated with Todd, and he'll have all the numbers.
It's ironic that it got you and didn't get one in the middle.
There were nicer planes in the
You're
middle.
just lucky. You're
Yeah.
just lucky.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly what I said.
when I saw
Yeah.
that, both of them.
Yeah, there's a
were
pretty
selling,
cardinal
I
in the middle.
Yeah.
To be honest,
How
we're
could-
lucky that it was
How
him.
could you be that?
Anyway, I don't know if there are any other questions, but that's our summary, very, very much in line with James' comments of how it happened, what occurred. And we have had wins, I know here, when I had the insurance adjuster out here last week, around 2 in the afternoon, we had winds exceeding 30 miles an hour at that point, and
Oh, yeah.
so I appreciate all the action.
Honestly, I'm surprised that there wasn't more damage done to the aircraft. I mean, realistically, looking at the photos and how the doors fell, and
Right. Me
we're
too.
really lucky. You're
I'm
really
surprised it
lucky.
didn't happen sooner, because it seems like to me we've had stronger winds.
We have had for
I
sure.
mean, because I know
But you
we've
don't
had
know.
45-mile-an-hour winds in the past.
Man, just had a blast, though.
Yeah.
Just the
One little
direction
sudden-
and the way it hit.
Just the direction, absolutely, yeah.
I've
Definitely
got a
had some.
question on the other hangar that we enclosed and the way those doors are configured. Or is it totally different?
Yeah, the center's on the outside.
Okay, so no issue with the other
It
hangar?
eliminates pins, is what it does. Yeah. That, did you understand what I was talking about, the adjustment at the top? Yeah, that keeps the door from raising.
James, what's this $457 hanging out here for Barry Gilbo? Any comment on that?
He's out, and they're in the process of collecting that because he didn't give us a 30-day written notice.
Oh, so he is no longer a tenant?
No longer a tenant.
No, he was working on that.
They have it spelt wrong. It's dairy, it's a D, not a
They're
D.
still in.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, he claimed that he wrote a letter and he never did.
But it's rented again.
Yes, it's full.
If there's no other questions on the hangar doors at this point, we're still on number 5, and James, you may report a little on the glass that we put in for the restaurant, and also there's an issue with the breezeway doors on the east side of the main terminal.
On the hangar, or on the restaurant glass wall we discussed, we set up to $7,000. Well, the place that the city hall used for their breezeway doors bid it at $5,600. So, and it got it installed, it was put in last Thursday,
Looks really good, by the way.
so it really blends nicely.
Yes, it does look really good. I was up there the
Yeah.
other day, and it
Yeah.
looks really great.
And also, we did a quote for replacing the power doors that's on the east side of the terminal. They're just a maintenance nightmare as far as every time someone comes out to work on them, they don't last. Anytime they're back to having the same issue again. So, and I got just one quote so far, just to give us a hard number on what it would cost to replacing it. It's like $9,000. And speaking with Wyman, we was talking about replacing or removing that glass door that separates the two, because if you come through your power doors, you've got to go at an angle and then manually open the swinging door to get in. So if you got your hands full with luggage and everything, it's really a pain to try to diagonal. My only concern with removing the breezeway is when a jet turns, how much smell are we going to get in the terminal, or how much noise we're going to get in the terminal. So that's something to discuss before we decide to remove the breezeway, or maybe just lining up the inside doors so that when you come through the power doors, you go straight through the swinging doors. I don't know. That's
For a
just,
reason, we only have one set of power doors there. I mean, not to spend more money here, but,
right.
I mean, the idea there is that it's an airlock, right? So we keep the outside air outside and the inside air inside.
It's
And
an airlock.
If we get rid of the inner doors, then they're gonna get a lot more cold air directly inside, which is also bad juju in the winter.
Yeah.
I would be concerned about removal, personally, of the inner set of doors.
So the 9,000 is for what? Two doors?
No, just to
That's just
replace
the
the
outdoor
power
ones,
door that's there, the existing power door.
That is the doors and the mechanism, all, or is it just
Just the power doors.
a power?
To remove the swinging doors was another $2,000.
I think what you're asking, is that include new doors on the power door?
Yes, brand new operating system for the
But-
power doors.
And doors.
Could we not keep our doors and just put new operating systems on it?
It's too old. It's a totally oddball system. Now, what we could do is move it in, put a brand new door on the outside, possibly. One of the major issues with this door that we have, whenever it rains, it gets water in the system and it just sits there and bounces constantly. You have to shut it off and just prop it open.
Aren't you just moving the problem from outside to inside then?
Yes.
I wouldn't
That's what I'm
recommend
saying.
that.
That's
I
why I'm
wouldn't
wanting to get
think
rid of
that would
this
be
door itself, so. I mean,
But
you're
that is the only power door in the terminal?
No.
Are
It's
there
only
other-
powered dual doors. I mean, the front entrance is double power doors.
But these slide.
Right, these are sliders.
Is there any cost savings with going with a stationary and a single slider instead of dual sliders?
Do we need a double door there? I mean,
Yeah, do we need dual sliders?
Luggage cart.
right?
Need 5 feet or whatever.
Need the
that
5
is.
feet.
Still need a 5-foot clear, okay.
All right.
A revolving door wouldn't work then.
Is that the only bid you got?
Yes, I just got it, just to give us an idea of what we got going on. And
So I guess what we're looking at right now, it's not going to exceed 9,000, but are we needing it before next meeting, or
no, we're working with what we have.
what I was,
But what, the main issue also with the door, and then the alignment of the two manual doors to go in at an angle when you're pulling a luggage cart.
well, would it be best just to give James the authority to go? Well, I don't think he even needs the authority from us to go price some more doors,
I
but.
definitely say let's
But
get
is
some
it
more
worth
quotes.
him doing that? Are we in agreement that it's probably gonna be done, so we'd like for him to go ahead and get the pricing?
Do we have the money to spend to do it? I mean.
We've got the money.
Got the money to spend, then we're creating
And it's-
a maintenance nightmare with what we have, then.
These have lasted, what, 30 years? So it's gonna be over a period of time that it's gonna be a small
Have the inner
amount per
doors
year.
always been manual there?
Yes.
And they've passed
Can't remember.
ADA, Americans with Disabilities, on the pole. and-
Grandfather claused in, probably?
30 years ago, so.
What are we spending on
Probably
average
no
a year?
today.
No.
But the answer's
repairs
no
on
today,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to say because they'll come out and repair it, and then a matter of time, it's back to doing the same thing or something else. Last guy had to look at it, just never did anything, he just walked away.
Nice if life was that easy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
We have people locally that can competitively quote and bid that?
Well, the
Or would-
people who installed the glass wall upstairs is the one I got the
That's
quote
who you had
for.
quote that, okay.
So I'm sure there's other automatic door companies in the area.
I'd say let's get a competitive quote done, minimum of 3, even if it's through fax and not going through the whole bidding process. I don't know, what's the city's guidelines for competitive bidding? Thousands of dollars, what levels?
We take competitive bidding over 20,000. Under 20,000, we get quotes. Go with that. We removed the airlocks on City Hall here and put power doors on both sides, and we haven't noticed, except occasionally if both doors open at the same time, we do get a pretty good breeze through it. But if only one opens at a time, we haven't noticed a lot more colder air coming in. And it is a lot more convenient if you're carrying stuff, if you don't have that second manual door.
If you have that inside door powered, anyone walks by it, it's gonna sit there and operate.
Well, you can adjust those motion detectors to where you have to get close to the door for it to open.
I would be of the opinion that if we're going to replace it, that we, personally, I would say we look at replacing both sets of doors with power. Just because, like you said, ADA is going to super frown on a
Yep.
single set of doors that are power and then a
They're
manual
going to be
door.
close enough together that they're probably going to both open at the same time.
So is there enough foot traffic inside the terminal building, just moving from one side of the building to the other to trigger these things sitting there opening and closing all day?
Well, let me offer this as I see it, as a user of it. You definitely, as a user, want that first door to be powered. You're coming in out of the rain or out of the wind, out of the cold or whatever, heat, whatever. Once you get in that airlock, then you can pause.
Sure.
And you can set your suitcase down, you can do whatever you want to do, and you can reach over and open that other one. So I don't think it's quite as big a problem as, from the user standpoint. And definitely, if you're, as Wyman said, if you come through the other door, you're gonna open immediately the other. So you're gonna have
Airlock's
that
not very big, for
airflow,
sure.
you're gonna lose your airlock too. So there's pros and cons both ways.
Dual power, that's for sure.
Well, what, if they're gonna install complete doors, they can do the alignment
We
in
can
the
get a bid
process.
on both. We can get a bid on
I
one,
mean,
get a bid on two.
if there's a problem
and
with
then
the
we make that
alignment, if you're gonna
decision
put a
based
new
on
door in,
numbers.
there's no reason you can't solve
We'd
that
be
problem.
thinking about it.
Is there?
I would just bid one or both. Let them know it could be just one, or we may do both.
Separately.
And then we'll make that decision if
Yeah,
that's good.
bid
We just,
Power and one power and fix the inner doors so they line up.
Right.
Seems like to me that with the traffic in the terminal, an inner door being powered could be a problem. It could be running all day long.
I've seen them where they did.
And you defeat your purpose and to drive people crazy in the terminal with that door open and
Good.
closing all the time.
It could. It would depend on how sensitive they were set, but yeah, it definitely could. That'd be a question more for Dave, maybe. It's,
I don't have a strong knowledge of that, I mean, entrance doors on the west side.
You could look at a two-way door also, swing both directions, where you just push on it whichever direction you're going.
yeah.
That works good.
James, are those doors, I would assume they lock those doors at night, the inner door, not the outer door? And when we secure the building,
That's cool.
The outside, manual door.
maybe something we have to consider.
Well,
Yeah.
right, a new slider door has an automatic lock on it, so they can lock it.
Could use a foot
I
pad
like
on
the
the
idea of
inside
the-
to trigger it instead of a motion detector.
Push through it.
You could use a foot pad on the inside door instead of a motion detector to trigger it, and that way it wouldn't be opening off with traffic going back and forth.
Yeah.
True. Like the
Like
entry
the
doors on the other
handicap.
side.
The west
Those
side
are
doors.
foot-
Big button you push and it opens.
Well, going in the front door now, you have,
Yeah, exactly. It's a foot pad right now.
the rubber mat triggers it. If you used a rubber mat on that back door, traffic going across the lobby wouldn't operate the door.
You can do it that way. Yeah, well, just look at all the options.
Okay.
Might also let you determine, the size of that mat would determine how quickly you triggered the inner door when you're coming in from the outside as well.
Right.
Okay? Anything else? Activity report, Wyman.
You've got your fuel purchases, I think we handed those out late. But the real news is the operations report. We set a record month that exceeded operations for any month since 2010. We averaged over 100 operations a day. I looked at the daily activity to see if it was weekend flyers, and it wasn't. It was, usually the heaviest day was Wednesday out of the week. But that's phenomenal to have that kind of activity at our airport.
I was actually emailing with Mike at the tower yesterday, and this month to date, there have been 1,300 already. So we're on course to meet or beat that February number for this month already. Again, really excited about it. It was really neat.
Got your financial report. Since we've raised hangar and we've caught up on our grants, we don't have any grants due. We're breaking even and staying well above our expenses. Gives us a little breathing room that we can make minor repairs without worrying about where we're going to get the money from.
Right.
Good position to be in. Any questions for Wyman? We have Mike Malone here that's going to make a presentation about the tower illustrations. Oh, okay. Yes, come on up here.
So I don't know who's in control of the PowerPoint here, but maybe there's somebody up there. But anyways, my name is Mike Abb. I work with a company called Runway. We work out of Bentonville, but we have strategic focus across Northwest Arkansas and the greater state. And essentially, my role is to kind of activate community areas and public places, of which the airport has been identified as one of these public places that we think that we could do a project at that could really make an impact on multi-levels within the community and overall in the aviation industry. I was first brought the challenge by Stuart Walton, which is my boss, that also works with Dave at Summit, on how to address the challenges of airports looking somewhat like prisons. Tall razor wire fences, big towers, unassuming, and the decline in general aviation over the course of the past 50 years and getting people to actually want to start flying. And some of that has got to do with the way the airports look. And so when we were discussing how we could make things different or what could we do, we were also looking at some of the previous investments that have been made in the area, namely the Razorback Greenway, which wraps right in front of Summit, and the school that was recently placed there, which is also a great asset when talking about the future generation. So we were thinking maybe we could take the tower and we could place some graphics or a piece of artwork on it that could speak to flying, speak to some of the history of the area and some of the important agricultural things that we find important to highlight, as well as generally help make things more aesthetic. I think you'll find whoever's in control of the PowerPoint, there's a few clips down at the end here where we go ahead and take the tower. These are just previous examples of the artist that's working on this from a company called Inkdwell. These are just some basic renderings that are going on. I can give you a little history about those folks here, why we've decided to choose them, but overall wanted to kind of lay out the vision towards why. And so when I was talking with Stuart, he was like, well, why don't we go out after one of the towers here and see if we can't do something to make it look differently. And I had already been speaking with this company, Inkdwell, who's been going around the country doing this migrating mural, which takes graphic depictions of at-risk species and places them in public environments to help bring education and hopefully investment into keeping these species on and going in the planet. Now, this particular migrating mural is for the monarch butterfly. The monarch butterfly is one of the key pollinators to all things in the United States that have to do with needing to transfer pollen to bloom and procreate. So they've been declining rapidly, as well as the bees have. So general awareness about the monarch butterfly is a major need nationally and in the world. And I think oftentimes the butterfly is only looked at as somewhat of a pretty thing, and instead of its fundamental role in the ecosystem, as well as being one of the pioneers of flight. So when you look at the butterfly, I don't want you to lose sight of what its key.
Could I interrupt just a second? First of all, I think before we would get into any design or anything, first of all, we need to find out if the Airport Commission is even interested in making something like this happen. I know it was briefly discussed once before here if we were interested, and I don't remember, I don't think there was a whole lot of interest at that time. There may be much that has arisen since, but I would love to know if we even need to, before we consider design or anything like that, in the history of some of the things going forward. First of all, who pays for this?
It's privately funded, so you would not be asked to pay for anything.
And then the second question I have, how do we go about getting a consensus on the Airport Commission, whether we're even interested? We haven't really studied that before moving into what would go on it. That's all I'm saying, is I think we're getting the cart before the horse a little bit.
Would it be on one side of the tower, the most prominent side as far as the traffic visibility?
We've got multiple options. We can do a combined image just on one side, or we can do wrapped 360 around the tower to kind of show the life cycle of the monarch from the caterpillar on to the butterfly. So we've got multiple options that are out there depending on your preference.
Well, let me ask the mayor a question if he's
Sure.
here. I know he didn't come here for this. But this is definitely city property, even though, and we're not over the operation of the airport. And I would think that something like this should be referred more to the city council than it would be for the Airport Commission.
Well,
it could be a joint venture if so to be.
When we met, not getting into the specific design, because you can have, people you're not going to pick something everybody likes no matter what. But I think I brought Wyman into the room, and we knew that you were in the process of possibly painting the tower.
Right. Uh-huh.
And so we wanted to get this before you so that you could, we didn't want you wasting money painting the tower. Whether it would have been wasted or not, I don't know. It depends on how we move forward with this, and whether the background would be a part of this. Yeah. So we just wanted to get this before you. I don't know, Wyman, whether the council really needs to. I mean, somebody's going to have to eventually approve the design, but this is. I think it's. When we first started talking about monarchs, I had mixed feelings about it. Although I will tell you, when I was a kid, you found them all over the place, and then I never really thought about it until the last few years when when you really don't see them anymore. But I'll tell you, since we got involved with Mary McCulley and her group, and council approved, we did a proclamation proclaiming Springdale as a monarch city, and been a lot of milkweed planted and that sort of thing. And now you can go. At last October, I went down to Shallow Museum where there was a bunch of milkweed, and it was in October, and it was right in the middle of their migration, I guess, when they were through here, and there were thousands and thousands of monarchs, and it was a really cool deal. So and they are important pollinators, and I just thought as this idea was shared with me, I thought, well, that's not a bad idea if they can get a design. When you think of butterflies, you don't want something real, I don't know the word I know the word I want to use, but I'm not going to use it. But what I've seen here, and I know these are still probably just conceptual, but I like a whole lot better. It actually tells the story and shows the life cycle of the monarch, and I think there are a lot of positives to this. Forget the fact that it would be privately funded. That's certainly important, but I think something to add some beauty to that tower, I think would be a real positive. So I guess the question, I'm going to have to defer to Wyman on the question of the council and what involvement they would need to have, because
There's nothing wrong with you asking the council their opinion, but the statutory authority the council's given the Airport Commission is total control and operation and maintenance of the airport. So y'all have the authority to do it if you have the funds or the means to do it.
yeah, you can put butterflies on there just as easy as you can paint it.
I think you're saying basically the same thing. Answering my question is, if there's a overall theme or something that, with all the things that's happening in Springdale, to me, the city council is closer to that. And as far, well, I guess what I'm saying, the Airport Commission would be in a position to say whether we wanted it or would accept it or what. But as far as going in there and designing it and accepting the design, I think that needs to be passed on to another entity, or if you see what I'm.
Yeah, in this process, do y'all have any kind of public input, or do you have something like that embedded in the process as far as, would a committee need to be formed, or?
I was of the opinion that the funding source is number one on who checks off what they want to pay for.
Right.
And secondarily, which we've done, and secondarily, you all, I was of the impression would be that next layer. Happy to go towards whoever else you think.
I'd like to ask what the life of the mural on the tower is and the maintenance involved.
Sure.
And in a year or two, if it starts looking different,
Sure.
who's going to fix it and that kind of stuff? Because if it turns into something that doesn't look good in a couple years and we're going to have to redo it, I think that's important to consider as well. I don't think there'd be an objection to using the tower for a beautification and fitting a city theme. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm looking at long-term. For example, that tower's been sitting there for 25, 30 years. We've painted it once. And, the maintenance cost to us as the Airport Commission, we need to look at what it's going to cost us in the future, not just putting it there and then you go away and then it's our responsibility to keep it looking pretty.
Greg, happy to speak to that. Not our first rodeo, and definitely something that we bake into the process of what's going on here. This isn't a set it and forget it, and we ride off and you're burdened with something. What the plan is currently is to use laser cut images out of die cast aluminum with foam in the middle of it, real high grade quality materials that are then bolted to the tower, so it wouldn't be physical.
So it's not a paint.
It's not a painting. So these things would be created in their workshop in California, brought here. We would mount them, and so at that point in time, For any maintenance needs that could go on in the future, we could go out and pull them off and bring them back down and work on them, and that would be something my group would take full responsibility for.
Okay.
But also to kind of speak to
But you're not proposing painting the tower?
No, we're not proposing
At all.
painting the tower.
We would still need to follow through on our painting program.
Depends on if you want to continue to paint the tower. I thought that this could be a potential.
Well, I think, and the mayor alluded to this too, we're in the process of painting right now as soon as the weather gets good. And I guess the question I got out of that, should we proceed with that? Or was there something that if we went this route that might affect that?
I personally think unless it's just so crumbly out there that you're having to do this anyways, you mentioned it's only been one time in 30 years and it's a basic maintenance that you're going to have to do regardless. But if it's just for a pure aesthetic thing, I think this fulfills that need for you there. So there could be some cost savings that trickle down to you by the nature of just putting something else on there. So I can't speak to what your previous efforts have been there, but
You're proposing that we leave it as is, and then this would take.
Correct.
This would be sufficient rather to change the looks of it or to freshen it up rather than painting.
I would have concern about the background right now, because it's faded.
Yep.
It's ugly faded paint right now.
I
And
think that we
put
should.
something like that on top of ugly faded paint, that wouldn't make any sense.
I think we should continue on with the paint project, because there's going to be how much time between, looking at this schedule, at least 6 months between now and the time this would be applied, minimum, and if we continued on with the paint project, at least we would have a base that matches the existing building that we currently have, and then they can go ahead and put this application over top of it. And now they can work their application. If they've got to take something down, we don't have a miscolored tower that doesn't match our existing facility.
And how would the image look against the color that we're going to use?
I think that's something that you would want
Yeah.
some input on.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we could, I'm sure a color could be chosen that would work either way. Work with the images, with the applied images, or work with the existing terminal if that never happens or if the images are taken down.
Well, as I'm reading you, Mayor, you're highly in favor of the airport going along with it.
That's accurate.
And the Monarch would be your preference of a theme. Is that what I'm reading?
It makes sense to me, yeah.
Is there any theme that could kind of give the history of our city as an option? Do we, anything obviously poultry related, or, something that's brought Springdale to where it is today?
You know, it's funny, I brought this up to Archie this morning. I happened to be in a meeting with him, and I expected him to say, can we put chickens on it? And he didn't. He said, Tyson is big into this Monarch deal. They've got a milkweed area and that they've planted. So that doesn't mean a lot, but I thought that was interesting. I don't know. I don't know how that. I'm not an artist, so I don't know how that would transfer into into that. I'm willing to go, and support this idea.
Well, the colors that we were going to use on that tower match the terminal. So they're the two-tone gray is what we were going to put on that tower.
The darker or the lighter?
The light.
The lighter.
Trimmed down.
The lighter one. I think we're going to use
I
the
would think
darker
that
for
would
the
probably
trim.
work, but
I'll
defer to the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
So,
would look great against I'm definitely familiar with the colored set over there. I fly with Dave and have been to the airport many times. And I think anything would look nicer than that beige. I think we can all agree to that. The only reason I bring it up as a cost saving is because the general frugalness of all. So as it being an option, would I prefer a gray background? Yes. If we didn't do it and it saved you all money, great. Do I still think the artwork excels regardless? I do.
is this going to be on all four sides or just one side?
Is that,
That's where it currently sets right now to do a a 4 wrap. Now, if we skip back one of them, we'll see them all combined onto one image of the tower. So that would be the full life cycle there, just on one side. That's the side facing the Greenway. Now, if we do all 4 sides, you can see it quite clearly from the Jones Center. We're working on a couple of projects over there with them as well, to kind of do some beautification stuff in general. And Bill, to your point about what is the content and how does that maybe relay into Springdale as a whole. I think quite commonly when we talk about the public art thing, it usually the needle goes right to tell us a historical tale of our place, and I feel like there will be many things coming down the line that will appease those that need that. But with the previous efforts that have been done by champions of the monarch such as Mary and some of the stuff the mayor mentioned with Tyson, and we feel like this is a strong narrative and one that can continue to be taught, and some of the stuff that can be yielded out of that with additions to the Greenway with milkweed planting will help this thing become more of a public conscious and something that can tell lots of stories rather than just one of them.
And it's certainly something that is news/press worthy at one point when it's completed and ready to go. We need the newspaper and the TV coverage out there. That would help tell the story.
On the full overall presentation here, the group that we're working with and why we've come into contact with them is because they have a national scope. They're doing 2 projects in Orlando and in conjunction with Disney, and multiple things that we're trying to get going in Missouri with some friends in Springfield, the O'Reilly family. So they're trying to build an overall national push towards this so we could daisy chain and piggyback on some additional efforts that are happening in other cities. She's done some work with the Smithsonian and the Natural Museum of History. So there is a lot of like clout there that made this appealing to choose.
One way we could move forward with this, if there's no, if the commission is willing to, for your part, say, we think this is great and we'd be happy to support it and allow that to happen, then we could still go to the committee just as a discussion item, even next Monday night, and talk with them just more as a point of awareness and bringing them in, keeping them in the loop, and make sure that that there's no concerns that none of us have thought about. But if that's a way you would if that would give you all some comfort, then we could sure do that. But it'd be nice to be able to go to them and say that you all are supportive of this idea. I think it's great, and I hope and I think the public would really like it. Again, not everyone agrees on what's pretty and what's not, and what's appealing and what's not. But I don't know what they would find. About this.
That's exactly my feeling. We give our blessing to it, and then as far as design and everything, I don't think we're the right
I would say that
body
we
to-
probably want at least 1 or 2 representatives participating with that, but maybe not the whole committee requirement.
Yeah.
That would be
Well, I think.
I would like to see our involvement in it, but that's not necessarily our babysitting completely.
It sounds like the funders they're submitting the design.
Basically.
So what we're seeing here are the 2 proposed.
I think it would, as it stands right now, it would boil down to one of these 2, whether we do one image or one side, or whether we do the wrap. And I'm better off if somebody shows me something and I say I like that or I don't, a lot better off than trying to tell them what we need to do where. So,
But are we the right body to determine which one they go with? That's my
I think
question.
you're the right body to say we're fine with
the concept.
with doing this, and then I think then the funders bring forward a proposal that addresses maintenance, long-term maintenance, that kind of thing, or at least answers those questions so we know what we're getting into.
And I do think also there needs to be some kind of publication or communication to the community, because some people will look at this and say, why are they spending money, even though it's not? You know, that perception is,
Right.
they say, why aren't we painting the other hangars, or why aren't we doing this? They're spending money for
I
this.
think we'll work with Melissa on this about how to roll this out. Melissa can work with the funders and the artists and make sure we roll this out right and all the correct information's out there. And then, but I mean, once we go to committee, well, today, this is a public meeting, so I don't know if anybody's here to cover it, but this is out now. So, and it'll really be out after Monday night if we talk about it at committee. So as long as everybody's ready to do that, we'll just
Go
bring
ahead,
these,
'cause I've got two
depending on
questions.
what you all do, if you say, yeah, we like either of these and we're fine with it, then we'll take it to committee and let them know, just, and if,
I'll render an opinion that if we're going to do it, I'd like to see all four sides done.
Yes.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, if.
Do we have
for-
funding in place
For the
for it?
most impact, would a wrap be better for the full impact? And also, would there be some sort of a plaque or some standard below the tower there that would kind of tell the story of what we're trying to convey
it may be
here?
something you want to put in the terminal, since people don't walk right up to the tower.
That's true, too.
You know, you may want to, you may want to put a picture of the maybe of the four sides,
Well,
and with an
let's-
explanation of why and all that kind of stuff.
We
I'm
need
sure-
wall coverings in our
That's something
newly
we can do.
renovated terminal, so we've got some wall space for
Yeah.
that.
You see any problems with any of that?
No, I don't, and to speak to kind of like, what is this for the general public? We do plan on a legend or a plaque down below. Of course, we could bring something inside the terminal as well. Early discussions with Mary, who's your kind of local monarch champion, was to also kind of maybe do some stencils on the greenway leading from the elementary, from the
Good.
greenway right
Good.
to there, so there
Right.
would be monarch stencils that would kind of lead you right to there, as well as information about the existing efforts that have been made, whether at the Shiloh Museum or other places on the greenway, where folks can learn more and participate. You know, a little bit further down the line, we'd like to work with some of the local retailers here to highlight, you know, that you can pick up the little Monarch package, so potentially in the PR and press releases that go along with it, and we can kind of, hey, pick up your seeds for the milkweed, plant some in your backyard too. You two can help this journey out, so that way we can take the efforts here and really actually move them forward into people's homes and properties.
And I really like the mayor's idea about incorporating something in the terminal building.
Right, for sure.
And if you could incorporate that in your proposal, you know, maybe go out and look at our terminal, you know, identify even a place in the terminal. We've got a wall right as we walk in the front door that could be a very good place to depict each side with the message.
Yeah, right now, we have earmarked $25,000 for the project. I'm basing really in on $5,000 per side and $5,000 as additional buffer and signage and communication efforts. The materials alone will probably capture $3K of that per side, and then $2,000 worth of artist fees towards it. And that's as cheap as we can possibly make something of this size and grander. Now, we may get back to them and we may feel like that the pop doesn't happen on all four sides because there's, you know, it's better to concentrate because.
Well, that's what I was actually going to ask. My one thought, okay, I like covering all four sides for sure, even if it's with a single image on all four sides. I like that concept. Is there maybe a two-sided concept where you can get a little more of the life cycle on two sides? Because the odds that you're going to see two sides are really great. The odds you're going to see all four sides are essentially zero. So you're going to miss something of the art if it's different picture on every single side, unless you happen to be flying around it or driving around it. So my personal, totally unrelated thought is if we had a two-side image that was duplicated on the other two sides, that no matter where you are, you could see the entire cycle.
I like that mentality, and I think right now in the beta rendering stage, this is all I paid up to.
Right,
You know,
right.
I couldn't continue to go to the well for them and say, hey, continue to work for our opinion at this juncture, until I heard from the folks that are in control.
With that in mind, and I think I'm reading there's a good consensus here of moving forward on that. I would like to get that before the commission right now and concentrate on that.
Agreed.
That if we are going to want to participate in this, want to provide the tower for this purpose, and then I know the design's going to come out in all these
Right.
meetings and everything. So I would ask for that right now, if there's any.
I'd
just-
move
I
that
just
we
have
accept the
one-
concept.
I have one question. Lighting. Is it going to be lit?
Right now, we don't have budget to light it. So, you know, this was kind of some of the things about, like, if you save a couple bucks on painting, throw it up towards lighting. It doesn't mean that we can't make the case back, and maybe bring in some additional funding sources to make that happen. I personally would like to see it lit, you know, of course. I think at night, this will be a nice attraction for folks. And overall, I do feel like a lot of the Greenway traffic will yield a lot of positive imagery out of this for Springdale. So it would be nice. I do think we can do something quite efficient there, but we'll have to look at what power is already available when it come out. You know, the electrician fees can quickly turn into $2,500, $3,000, instant hours.
We also have to be careful about shining lights up.
Right.
We're at an airport, so
That's what I was thinking about, the catwalk down.
Come down from the
it'd
catwalk,
have to be
exactly.
from above if we're going to light it. Because, again,
It
shining
looks like
lights.
there's a nice recess there.
Yeah, the catwalk could definitely be a place to do that.
It's just a shame that we'd spend half the time that thing's up in the dark.
It would be neat. It would be neat. And if you're going to, it'd be nice to see it lighted, I would agree.
Now, since
Or
we're planning
driving
on
in on the
bolting
street
these
side.
to the structure, we'll have to get with, we have an in-house engineer that can identify the best mounting points. Now, it's a pretty generic structure in the sense, so I don't think I'm really encountering much wild cards here in terms of where the steel is laid out and where to get, you know, the best mounting points. But as a bonus feature to kind of the ideas that we mount, once those mounts are there, then further down the road, we grow tired of this or we want to move the imagery somewhere else, or it's past its life cycle, we'll have the mounting facilities there, and we can embark on another artistic effort in the future because we'll have something to mount to.
Okay.
Could be an issue trying to light that western wall because you'd have to aim the lights back toward the runway. And that's the wall that would be most predominantly viewed by the people on the trail. Lighting that wall could be an issue.
Well, again, if we're lighting from above, it might not be as.
Right, yeah, if we,
If we're lighting from the bottom, I would be very concerned about it. If we're lighting from above, then I think there's a way we can make something work without blinding any pilots.
How far is this offset from the base structure? 6 inches, 4 inches, 2 inches offset?
Haven't determined yet, you know, I've got to see how far it would get to the beams, how thick the beams are, what's the best structural integrity to kind of keep these things mounted, what the overall weight of each structure will be. With the new kind of foam core aluminum, I've been using it on a number of projects here. Stuff is remarkable and it's lightweight. It's basically the new age science stock.
Yeah, it's science stock.
So it's, you know, it's confident that it's not going to weigh very much, and that we can secure a product.
I'd like to move that we accept the concept.
Okay,
I'll
have a
second
second?
Second.
Any more
Third,
discussion?
Fourth.
If not, roll call?
Collier. Barker.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Schoonover.
Yes.
Willoughby.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Okay, and we'd be happy to receive any updates we can get, and we'll have some representatives there. Andrew, I definitely know want to be involved, Mayor, with the,
Yeah.
No, and
I would
anyone
volunteer to be
else.
involved for sure.
Yeah, if you need effort Monday, the other council meeting, just let me know. If not, we can go back to the artist, let them know that they have approval, and we'll move forward with
Thank you very much.
Do you have a card or something that?
I think it's really
Ready to look
good
in
that
the
we
tower, just
support
holler.
something that the city is supporting, because if this is a theme that the city
I
does.
think on the outstart, I think that I was a little blindsided, the fact that we were that far down the road with the city as far as the design stage. But I certainly
biggest
think
concern
everything
was-
worked out fine.
One of my biggest concerns was funding, and
Yes,
obviously
sure.
that's addressed, so.
Okay, on the entrance signage, Andrew, are you the
I
chair of
guess
that
so, yeah.
committee?
All right,
I think
so.
you passed out everybody else.
So we've had, thank you very much. I'll shoot you an email after this. So we've gone to 3 different places and gotten quotes on the new entrance sign. And what you hold is, there's the large and then there's the 2 different smaller versions. And then the other 2 are ones we just got in today to do some signage on the fence on the southeast corner of the airport. So what we have here, if it is internally illuminated, we're looking at $9,300 plus tax and permits. And so that is a poured concrete base with a nice foundation there. And then, what were those tubes? So 8-inch by 20-inch, is that what he said they were? 8 by 20-inch supports on the side. And then the top, obviously, you can see the dimensions there. So we're talking about a fairly thick, substantial-looking sign. So the illuminated was basically 9,300, and then the non-illuminated, or the externally illuminated version would be 8,000 plus the lights additional to that. So
This is internally lighted.
that is internally lighted. So that would be,
So that would be, if we accept this concept, the only real decision we'd be making would be that lighting issue, would it not?
they actually kind of have already planned that they would use the fluorescent bulbs in there and stack
Internal.
those up, everything internally. And he said he was open to discussing other options of lighting, but one of our biggest questions when Bill and I met with him was, do we put something like this on a sensor? Do we put it so that it's on all the time? He said that a lot of folks are leaving it on all the time. Bill and I kind of like the concept of giving us a switch so we could turn it between on all the time or a sensor so that it came on at night. Kind of our opinion is that for the small price difference, that internally lighted obviously made the
Right.
most sense for sure.
They would be, I think what he used the word embossed panels that are raised.
Yeah, the top part is.
So with the internal lighting, it gives a very good background effect
Is
as
more
far
of
as
a 3D
the
effect? or-
Correct,
silhouette.
correct.
And then down below in the advertising piece, it's really a pretty simple lighting, concept or structure. There's just
Right.
enough tubes there to allow for the lighting, and then it's up to the individual advertiser to work with the sign company
Right.
as far as their, if you will, plastic goes. that would
Can I
slide
just
in.
make a motion that we accept this?
I like it.
I think everybody's.
I think they've done a great job.
I do too.
We kind of left it up to them anyway, didn't we? If
Well,
this
we-
what-
we met
if
with
this
2
is
or
your
3 different
recommendation,
Yeah, we
your
met with
motion
2 or
is
3
that we
different-
accept the committee's recommendation and let them move forward?
Second.
Okay, motion second, that we accept the committee's recommendation. They're still in charge of it, and let them move forward. Roll call?
Barker,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Schoonover,
Yes.
Willoughby,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Collier.
Yes.
Okay, one question that I have, just to present it to the commission. We obviously have a structure here, and there's paint color choices. The sign fella, there's the, kind of the bronzy color out there on the light post and whatnot. It was kind of his thought to maybe go with the bronze as far as the structure goes, and it would be painted. These
Yep.
these structures here, it's a material that they have on hand that does require painting. And, but is there any thoughts about whether a bronze, or is there any other color as far as the structure goes?
What was the committee's consensus on it?
Well, I kind of like the bronze because it matched what was out there. That was kind of my opinion on it. Have any thoughts? I mean, we could do something.
Did you have another suggestion, Bill?
No, not really, unless, I think this
But I
is
didn't
far enough
have a
away
strong
from our,
opinion.
well, from our terminal building to go, are we gonna wear out two-tone gray, or, you know, I don't even know that that would need to be a factor.
Have any
Far enough away, I don't
real
think
opinions
that
on it?
matters.
That's kind of how we felt. We were like, well, whatever, painted something.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it's
this-
far enough away from the structures that,
This sign, of course, being internally illuminated, I mean, it's gonna be wide enough. If we went with an externally illuminated sign, you could make it really narrow or skinny, but the sign fellow said he felt like that would literally maybe make it look cheap, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure.
Not substantial enough, so, but the width of the lighting will make it look a little bit more substantial. He's looking at right now, based on a green light, he's guesstimating about 2 months to have it in place. The sign company, they fabricate everything in-house, including the embossed sections, so there's not any portion of it being farmed out. And he can do a turnkey job, including the electrical side of it.
It'll work.
James, we
Appreciate
wanted
your
to
hard
kind of
work.
talk with you a little bit about electrical. Would you rather they just turnkey that, I am assuming, because we don't really have the staff to do electrical, do we?
Now, is there a thought about, we've got a rain garden out there, and can we come under that with power, or are we gonna need to go around it? Is there any thoughts along that way to give him any guidance?
That power will not be an issue with electrician, they'll figure it out.
Right there by the road.
They'll just- And they'll have to have it all
There's
marked and everything.
Lights
so
right there, so.
So the rain garden may not even be a factor.
They'll work all that
Okay.
out.
We assumed we could just go through and all would be well.
And the kids over at Harbor High actually did a smoking job to start putting.
Oh, they did?
yeah, they did.
They did very well.
Designs together for us, so I don't know if some type of acknowledgement to that class needs to be
Oh, we should put.
Well,
publicly
we,
made.
what I was thinking about doing, if we can get this, you know, within 2 months, let me see, we may be able to have it in place possibly before school is out or about the time school is out. We might even be able to have, you know, some of the kids that were involved come out and kind of do a dedication or something.
Picture in
Again,
the paper and all.
maybe a newsworthy or
Yep.
item, you know, and to get them the credit they deserve.
You know, I was just
Also might be
thinking,
neat to put just a little plaque on it or something to note.
when we first started this project, the first bids we had were like $30,000 and $60,000.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I'm just thrilled that, you know, that we're getting something that looks this quality and looks this good, and the price that we're getting, and it's lit, and that's,
Yep.
you guys did a great job.
We definitely turned down a handful that were not very cost effective, so.
Still got a lot of work to do, so I'm sure it's gonna be okay.
Groovy.
I guess if there's a question, the company that we choose, they need to get with Wyman as far as, I mean, any sort of a signature or commitment on this, or,
Yeah.
they didn't say anything about requiring anything on the front end, but,
The contract here does say half down, and so I'll get with
Okay.
Wyman on what we need to do there. And they've got to get me a new one, because they don't have, in the contract they gave us, he didn't have the signs for out on the fence in
On
that,
the-
so he's
on
gonna
the
have to adjust that
265.
slightly. So I'll get back with him and get those added in.
I like the signs for the fence. Size is the only thing. What do you think as far as size?
Is,
4x8 is a sheet of plywood size.
yeah, what we've got on here is the same size as the sign we're putting on. I mean, I would assume that we'd go with the 5x10, but I need to measure, see what the fence width is there. Because that kind of, to me, kind of determines how big the sign is, the width between poles. I'll do a little more research there.
Well, then you can almost get two of the 4 by, I mean, you're gaining a foot, doubling the cost.
That's true.
I mean, not quite double, but,
Is 4x8 okay with everyone? I mean,
Fine with
it's
me.
signage.
yeah.
Fine with me.
And it
That's
seems
it.
like to me that you could get them both then for 150%
Yep,
versus,
I can dig it. Works for me.
Okay. Okay, moving right along, update on the runway extension. Is this going to take a long time? Because
I'm going to get under 60 seconds, I promise. So this is for the runway rehab project. James submitted the scope, our draft scope of work to the FAA at the end of February. They had one comment about the vault building being in the scope. We sent them a reason for it, and we haven't heard anything back yet. So I sent them an email today just to refresher, hey, if you have any comments on the scope, let me know so we can move forward with getting it in front of this commission. So hoping to have our proposal to you by the April meeting. At that time, we would apply for a grant that would fund the designs. There'd be no cash flow issue for you all. And then again, schedule for construction next summer.
I know we prioritized this. Do you need anything from us today
Do not.
to
Nope.
move, to continue?
Do not.
Cool.
We'll bring you something next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. This is a big project, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit of money involved, and it's going to be a
Well, that's one
great-
I'm excited about. 'Cause
Yeah.
the lights on the east side.
Yeah, great.
you can't see in the dark?
You know, I just like to be able to see where the taxiway is.
Better than getting in the dirt.
Is there any old business? We won't talk about painting that pallet building today, James. We can talk about that next week. I guess you haven't got anything on that. Okay. We do need to continue thinking about that. You know
Did we ever
what?
talk to the city any about that?
Code enforcement has it.
Okay. No old business? Comments from the commissioner?
I got a question, and Adam, I'd kind of like to involve you in this. Earlier in the week, there was a pretty significant article in the paper about the Rogers Airport and the fact that it's going to be closed late spring, early summer, not for an extended time, but they're going to be totally down. And I'm wondering if some way or another we can offer support to that, and maybe with the thought of enhancing our traffic count and fuel sales during this time. Can you touch on a projected downtime?
The planned closure at Rogers is June 23rd through July 3rd. Yeah, I think it's 10 days.
And is there just anything that we could do to offer support during that where our airport could benefit?
Pardon me, I missed that.
Okay, I mean, is there anything that we could offer as a commission to the city of Rogers or to the operators in Rogers, just to remind them that we're open for business and would be glad to support their needs during this 10-day time that they're down?
Yeah, I'd say spare hangar space is what most people up there, I'm sure, are going to look for. Is I need a hangar for 15 days to be safe is what I would expect people would want.
And even any ramp, anybody
Yeah.
be willing to tie it down, take a chance, and fuel sales, traffic count.
Right.
Just
I know-
wanted to
I
throw
think-
I
that
know
thought
when
out
we,
there.
always before, when we've been shut down, the airplanes, they have to use it, they go somewhere else.
Are there any of these
they
hangars
pick a
that are
place.
on the west side and the northwest side that
Over
are
there.
sitting there empty that could be utilized temporarily?
There's one hangar available over there, and you pretty much call it a vault for the amount of rent he wants to charge for it. No one wants it. That's the only hangar space we have available other than open T hangars.
How many open tees do we have?
9.
Well, maybe even in the interim, this guy would entertain some sort of a,
Summit's been trying to work with him.
What about ramp tie-downs?
We have plenty of those.
Yeah, not a problem.
I would say one thing is I think in that closure time is the LPGA championship, so it may be good for someone to get on the horn with Summit and say, hey, I think a lot of people fly in to go to that golf tournament at Pinnacle. maybe more people go to Springdale because Rogers closed. That may be one way you can get some extra traffic.
I just wanted to throw it out there for some additional business.
Any other comments from commissioners? I've got one comment. I want to appreciate Rose being back. She had some medical issues and things, but I think everyone's aware of them. We're certainly proud of everything that turned out, and glad to have you back. The other thing, thank the mayor for coming by today and being with us the whole time, and that's my comments. So if no other comments, we'll adjourn.
Sign, Rose.
Huh?
Thanks for my name.